Okay, so let me just tell you what I usually do on Monday morning, and then I'll backtrack. But usually I go into the jury pool room, and in the jury pool room are a bunch of people, just like you all, who got a notice that told them that they had to come to the courthouse today. And they're all looking at me kind of like you guys are looking at me. I'm not particularly happy to be here. So I have to kind of greet them and get them kind of excited and interested about being in the courthouse. And what I tell them is the whole basis of our criminal justice system is people, like all of you. Because if we didn't have people who were willing to come into the courthouse and serve as jurors, the system comes to a complete stop. And we kind of didn't really even recognize how important jurors were until the pandemic hit, and we couldn't have jurors in our courthouse. So for almost a year, actually probably even longer than that, our cases just came to a complete stop because we didn't have jurors who could come into the courthouse. And people who were waiting to have their jury trials, people who were held in custody, they just sat there waiting because we couldn't make our system go. So today, when jurors come into the courthouse, we are so very excited to see them because our work is going again. So let me tell you how I ended up being able to walk into that room and say good morning to those jurors. When I was in high school, I went to Waltham High, and most of my classmates did not go on to college. Most of the kids that I went to school with ended up working. Some kids just my parents didn't go to college, but my parents were very much like, you are going to go to college no matter what. And I had an older brother and sister, and my brother in particular had no interest in going to college. And my parents, my mother, actually dragged him down to the community college, Middlesex Community College, and said, this is what you're going to do for the next 2 years. And he actually, it was kind of like a switch went off from him. And not only did he complete the community college, he went on to college, got his 4-year degree, went to Suffolk Law School, was valedictorian in the class, and now he's a partner in the law firm downtown Boston. And that was all because my mother dragged him on and made him go to community college. So it was a great place to start, because it opened his eyes to a whole bunch of different things that he never thought of. So I went to UMass out in Amherst. I actually had started at Babson College, which is a business school in Wellesley, because somehow I thought that I would enjoy business, even though I hated math and I wasn't very good at it. So I transferred there after almost 1 semester. I went out to UMass, and I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. My dad was a detective, and my brother at that time had been in law school, and I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, and I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor. But I had one huge problem. I hated to speak in front of people. I was actually terrified. I was the kid in class who never raised her hand, like as silent as you could be, because I didn't feel comfortable. And so when I went to college, I decided, well, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to have to figure out how to talk in front of people. So that was my major. I majored in public speaking and rhetoric, and I forced myself to get up. I can still today tell you the exact time. First time I spoke in front of an audience, I had to give a speech, and this is going to tell you how old I am. It was on how you should not have to wear a seatbelt, because back then it was not a law, and I was advocating for people not to have to wear seatbelts. And I remember, I can tell you how I felt. I can remember my hands being sweaty. I was terrified. But I made myself do it because I knew that I had to make myself uncomfortable in order to get somewhere that I wanted to be. So that's how I ended up beginning to get comfortable speaking with people. I went to Boston College Law School. And when I was in law school, I knew I had to keep working on my speaking skills. So I participated in every speaking competition there was. There's a moot court competition, I did that. There was a mock trial competition, I did that. I competed, actually got to travel across the country on some of the teams. And then I ended up in the job that Jennifer has today. And so not too long ago, I was doing exactly what Jennifer is doing. I was an assistant district attorney, and I did that for almost 19 years. And I mostly prosecuted cases of child abuse and sexual assault. And then I was fortunate enough to be appointed as a judge almost 16 years ago. So I have been in Lawrence now for almost 9 years. Goes really fast. And I love it here. It's a really busy courthouse. These are all my people. Emilio used to be in Lawrence with us when I first came. And my day is different every day, and I'm sure Jennifer's going to speak to this, everybody is. I never know who's going to meet me in the morning. I can come in with a plan, and then as soon as I get there, all bets are off, because you don't know if the courtroom could be as packed with not people being able to sit down. And so I just do what's in front of me. I think of it as I'm served a full plate in the morning, and my goal is to clean that plate as quickly as I can so I can make sure that everybody gets out of the courthouse as soon as they possibly can. What I would tell you is if you have an idea or a plan about what you want to do, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, because you can. It's just a matter of putting in the time and the hard work. When I was graduating from high school, I always am reluctant to tell this story in a school setting, but I kind of think it's important because I think people hope, and I'm sure your teachers are people who will support you and encourage you in any way. But I kind of bumped into someone who was my guidance counselor who told me that I shouldn't go to college. And he told me I had gotten an A in typing, because again, dating myself back then, the girls had to take typing. He told me I was a really good typist and that he could help me get a job as a secretary, because that's what we were secretaries back then. And I remember coming home and telling my parents that my guidance counselor told me that I shouldn't go to college and he could have a job and I could like literally graduate and walk into that job the next day. And my parents looked at me and they're like, no, that's not your plan. And I thought, okay, that's not my plan. And so, post note to that story is one of my daughters, they played basketball, and so we went back to Waltham High, and my girls were playing basketball, and guess who was taking the tickets at the door? My guidance counselor. So I went over to him and I said, I don't know if you remember me. And so I introduced him, and I said, you told me that I shouldn't go to college. And you told me that the best I could hope for was that I was going to be a typist and I would work in an office. And I said, I just want you to know I didn't listen to you. I didn't take your advice. And now I'm the first justice at Lawrence District Court. And I'm doing everything I was if you bump into that person, and you might bump into that person, because there's a lot of people who are just, especially now, I know with the pandemic, and it just feels like a lot, and you feel like maybe you're not going to be able to get to do what you want to do, and what you hope to do, and what you dream about doing, you can. So just believe in yourself, and you'll end up exactly where you want to be.
I'm Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Vera. So I'm a prosecutor out of the Lawrence District Court, so I'm not too far away from here. I actually went to Lawrence High. My first year here was the second year that the building was built, so I just missed time to go to the old Lawrence High next to the library. I graduated here in 2012. I was one of those kids that was in almost everything. I was in student council, I did track, softball, I did ROTC, I did the National Honor Society. I was one of those people that was looking to pad their resume. Sleep was kind of an option. I feel like I got more sleep though in high school than I do now, so appreciate that, because that's going to go away. I then, when I graduated here, I went to college in Holy Cross out in Worcester. I graduated in 2016, so I went straight through. Pro tip is all those little random scholarships I tell you can apply for, do that, because college is surprisingly expensive, more than you think it is. However much you think it costs more. So that was a fun pro tip that I learned while I was there. And then I debated whether or not I should sort of get a master's degree to help, look more impressive on paper to apply to law school. I decided, no, not necessary. So I immediately took the LSAT, which is the test to try to get into law school, and I went to New England Law, Boston, which before that it was called Portia Law, which was the first all-female law school. And then I graduated in 2019, and I got really lucky that I met an alumni from my school who worked at the DA's office. She gave me her card, I sent her my resume, I did my interviews, and then I got hired straight out. I had a job before I graduated. I got really lucky because I had a lot of classmates that were looking for work. And so right after I graduated, spent 2 months studying for the bar, which is that 2-day test to be a lawyer. It is really 2 days, 6 hours. It's a lot. And then after that, I've been working at the Lawrence District Court September 2019, and then I was working there it had been 6 months before we shut down for the pandemic, which then made the job very different. I was always very comfortable public speaking. When I was here in Lawrence High, I knew I wanted to go to law school. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew I wanted to do criminal law because I was one of those people that if I had to spend my day behind a desk, I'd bang my head against that desk all day. I couldn't do it. I once sort of dropped into like the courthouse because it's open. You can go into the courthouse any day, pop in, just sit down in the courtroom to see what's going on. And I remember getting internships to actually figure out what everybody was doing. And I remember saying like, okay, this looks fun. I can like to do this. I remember doing an internship during law school for the public defender's office. And then I remember doing internships for the DA's office. So I got to see both sides, and it confirmed that I wanted to be a prosecutor. I just really liked doing this side of it. A lot of people go to do both sides. I really like being a prosecutor. I still like it. It's been 2 years, it's going on 2.5. Still like doing it, so it's a good time. Yeah, my day, it does change every single day. The courthouse has 4 sessions, 3 on Fridays going, so I, in theory, know, like on Monday, I get the way my office works is, we sort of get a schedule, sort of, like the week before, like, oh, you're gonna do state arraignments, people get charged with something, or you're gonna do the pretrial session where like it's like a lot more paperwork goes on, or you get to do a motion in front of a judge, or you get to be in the jury session, and then sometimes the day before, I'm told, oh, this person's out, here are the jury trials for tomorrow. Something will go. Good luck, figure it out, you'll be fine. And so my job, a lot of it is learning to multitask, or learning to be able to just do things. Repetition is key in my job, just learning how to do things, eventually getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and not knowing what's going on, and just figure it out, think on your feet. But yeah, no, I remember going here, I had a counselor who, I remember when I filled out the Common App, she's like, okay, you applied to 8 schools, apply 1 more, keep going, keep applying. My mom expected me to go to college. I'm the oldest of 3 in my house. My parents are both from the Dominican Republic, I was born in New York, and moved here. And my mom was like, oh no, you're going to college. Like no surprise when I said, oh, I want to go to college, I want to go to law school. She's like, okay. And then my little sister was like, no, that seems like a lot. So you don't have to. But yeah, I was one of those, like, knew what I wanted to do, and I was so goal oriented that that's what I'm going to do. I didn't take any years off, and you don't have to. And I just, reality is though, it's expensive, but there's really no way around that anymore. So if you're going to go that route, I feel like it's one thing to just accept about it. But going here, I feel like I moved from here to Holy Cross, so it's all very doable.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you very much for giving all of us this opportunity to come over here and give you a little bit about our history, I graduated from Lawrence High School, the old Lawrence High School, in 1990. So you guys put the math together very quickly, yeah. I was very fortunate. God blessed me with a lot of athletic ability. So when I was at Lawrence High School, I played football, basketball, track, and I didn't quite put the effort into my academics the way that I should have. Come my junior year, my head football coach comes to me and tells me, hey, you have a talent to go to the next level and play, but your grades are not good enough to get in. My freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I kept telling people, I'm going to go to college, just didn't know how I was going to get there. I knew football was going to be my avenue, but I didn't know if I really could get in academically. He sat me down and told me, if you want to play at the next level, Tebow, you got to get your grades better. And what that did is it made me sit down, take a good look in the mirror and say to myself, where do I want to go? What do I want to be? And how much effort am I going to put into it? See, the athletic part came kind of easy to me. I worked hard, but it came easy to me. The academic portion was extremely difficult. I had to maintain a B+ average the second part of my junior year and my entire senior year. All I did was play sports and go home and study. And, luckily I put the work in and I was able to get that scholarship. College for me, first of all, I went to Boston College. I was very fortunate. It's an unbelievable academic school, but I was not really prepared academically to be there. But what Boston College did was they gave me all the tools necessary to succeed. The only thing that was needed was the effort. And effort is something that comes from within each one of you. Effort is something that no one can take from you. Effort is something that you have to apply. And the beauty is that we all have it within us. How much are you willing to give? That means, you know what, I'm not going to watch this program. I'm not going to hang out on the phone all day texting my friends or in this chat. I'm going to actually sit down and put the effort forward to succeed and be more and do more than what's presented. There's always going to be naysayers. You heard two incredible people that just said that there's always going to be someone who says, no, you're never going to do it. Well, I had that as well. I had plenty of them. But I believed in myself. And I said, I want to be more than what's presented to me. And each and every one of you have to ask that as well. Life, believe it or not, is quick. I'm standing here 50 years old, but I remember when I was sitting just like you. And here I am. The decisions that we make along the way are those decisions that will impact us for life. I've been a probation officer and assistant chief for 23 years, and it's been the greatest job that I've ever had. I've had the opportunity to impact people who have not made the best decisions or have found themselves in situations that brought them to where we are today. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people, it just means that they got caught up in something. We all make mistakes. I've made plenty of them. But what I love about my job is I'm able to present folks with options to move forward. And whether they take it or not, it depends on them. Because the only person at the end that needs to answer that question is the man or woman in the mirror. I've been an assistant chief for 3 years, and I love what I do. I manage 5 probation officers. I make sure that their cases are up to date and that they're following court orders. What myself and Emilio do is we're the eyes and ears of the court. Judge Rooney sets forth the conditions, and we inform Judge Rooney on whether this person's complying or not. And what is complying? Complying is effort. Same thing that brought you here this morning. Because you had a choice. It's almost Christmas, I can sit home. But you decided to come. When you get up in the morning, you decide to do something, challenge that day. Just don't show up. Make that day the best day. And if you can plow those together, you too could be successful.
I have a question for you guys. How many here are first generation American? Second generation. So most of us here are immigrants. We come from a different country. So we have the opportunity, we're given the opportunity to do things with our future. You know, I grew up in the Beacon Projects in South Bronx. You know, I was blessed, like Tebow, to have gifted athletic ability. When I was at Lawrence High School, I had the privilege of throwing the football to Tebow Concepcion. So we both were able to earn scholarships, and I went to the University of Maine. But before that, I had no idea what I was going to do. None. I didn't know if I was going to go to college. I thought I was going to go to the Army, and I had absolutely no idea. Until somebody sat me down and said, listen, you have the opportunity to change your life. You have the opportunity to go to school. And I'm like, how am I going to go to school? I can't afford it. Well, if you practice a little harder, if you put a little bit more effort, then you will be able to do something. And I was fortunate enough to be offered a scholarship to go to the University of Maine. And while I was there, I was one of 4 Latinos in the University of Maine that had 17,000 people at that school. You guys did that. So it was a culture shock going from a city like Lawrence, where at the time when we were in high school, it was more like 50-50. Now it's 95-5 Latino. But when I went up there, it was a culture shock. You have to learn how to adapt, and what I mean by that is you have to learn to adapt to your environment. To be able to succeed, you have to be able to see the path. And I saw the path, and the path was I have to work harder in order to finish what I've started here at the university. So with that being said, you know, I was fortunate enough once I got out of college to work at the Lawrence Public School System. I was a crisis intervention counselor at the South Lawrence East for 3 years. It was the best job I've ever had. Dealing with at-risk kids, and most of them were, single-family houses, no father at home. And it was hard seeing these young folks going through what they did. But it was my privilege and my honor to be there to help them and help their families get through. And be an example to them that, listen, if a kid from the Beacon Projects can go and go to school and get a job and be successful coming out of college, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Then I was fortunate enough to become a probation officer in 1998. And I'm sure you guys, some of you guys weren't even born, I think. But with that being said, I was a juvenile probation officer in Boston when I first started. I started there for 2 years. Then I had the privilege of coming back home and being a probation officer here in Lawrence District Court, where I spent 15 wonderful years. And I loved every single one of them. Then I transferred to Haverhill District Court, where I later became an assistant chief. I've been an assistant chief in Haverhill District Court now for 5 years. And again, as Mr. Concepcion said, it's a privilege and an honor to be working in the trial court system, because we are able to help individuals that, sometimes they make a mistake, but sometimes you deal with some hardcore criminals. There's no other word for them. And that's what we do. If they don't abide by those conditions, if they don't do what their court ordered, when Judge Rooney orders them to do something, it is our job to enforce those conditions. And if they don't do it, then they have to pay the consequences. And that's where the education and everything comes in, because you have to be prepared when you go in front of a judge to try to put someone into jail. You have to give the reasons why. You can't just say, oh, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Well, Judge, he was supposed to do A, B, C, and D, and he did 0. And this is a person that's charged with assault and battery on a domestic partner, and this guy's doing nothing. He thinks he can get away with it. And we have to prepare the case, and we have to make sure that it's ready to go and present it to the judge and give her the tools to make the right decision. And that's what our job is, to make sure we're diligent in making sure that people do what they're supposed to do. But with that said, this profession is rewarding. If you're really interested in being in law enforcement or in the trial court system, it is rewarding, but there are challenges. There are challenges. So if you're looking forward to doing that, we would welcome you in the trial court system. And thank you for allowing me to be here. And it's a privilege to come back home and speak to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So, I too went to Lawrence High School, the old Lawrence High School, the one that TiVo and Amelia went to. My path is the least conventional out of everyone up there. I was the class clown at Lawrence High in '92. I totally screwed off. I really had no direction, honestly. At that point, no one in my family had gone to college, and I just thought that I would figure it out as I went along. Wrong choice. I ended up okay in the long run, but boy, it was a bumpy road. I started taking classes at Northern Essex with a focus in criminal justice. I think I took 3 classes and stopped. Completely unconventional. I've had jobs. I've worked in junkyards. I drove tow trucks. I drove a taxi. Dishwash, worked in kitchens. I mean, the amount of jobs that I've done is mind-blowing to people. I ended up being a Lawrence kid, developed the ability to talk to anybody. Didn't matter who it was. I took those skills and became pretty successful in the sales field. I worked for multiple different companies selling their products, from IT technology stuff and computers and real high-end printers up to 16 feet wide, won trips to Mexico and Hawaii. And I said to myself, it's a grind doing sales work. It's not bad, but the real big money in sales is pharmaceuticals. At this point, I was roughly 29 years old. No college degree. I enrolled in University of Phoenix, the online place. They had a campus in Burlington, Massachusetts, and I went to school full-time while I worked at a company called Charette, one of the places that I won these sales contests and was traveling to different places in the world for being a good sales guy. I worked full-time, went to school full-time, and everyone in here, you all live in Lawrence right now. We all have this little fire in us, right? You're from Lawrence, and there's sometimes these people will come off and give you a negative connotation because you're from Lawrence. So we have this little bit of a fire in us. And I remember a kid that I was in school with told me, "You can't get into law school." Thank you, challenge accepted, SOB, right? And what did I do? I said, "You're not me. I'm a sales guy, I can sell anything," right? So I turned around and took my, it was like a 3.8 GPA at University of Phoenix while I was working full-time. I went to the Massachusetts School of Law in Andover, which is, excuse me, known as it's known as like a working man's law school. A lot of people commute there, they work during the day, they either go go at night or go during the day, depending on which type of job that you have, and I went at night. Long story short, ended up finishing, graduated, and became a lawyer. Started working at a law firm down in Everett, and then things separated. And freshly new into this career, things were pulled out from under me. But again, being that guy from Lawrence with that fire in the drive, I just kept plugging on. A couple of years later, I came up to a law firm up in, started my own practice. And my office is on Essex Street. My office has been a building that the family has had a law practice for 30 years, and I have my office space there. One of the things that I do as a criminal defense attorney, I do my own practice, and I'm also what's called a bar advocate. So everyone's probably familiar with a couple of key legal terms, you know, innocent until proven guilty. If you can't afford a lawyer will be appointed to you. I'm one of those guys in Lawrence. So is something that we do on a daily basis when you say, everyone's saying, things change. If I'm on duty day, you don't know what you get. And I've had instances where I had to do an arraignment for a murder case. I had to go down to the hospital and do an arraignment there in a hospital bed because the person was injured badly in a car accident. You don't know what you're going to get. You know, so having to be prepared, having to know what's going on, having to make an on-the-fly adjustment to an argument after a client who, you know, again, innocent until proven guilty is the mantra. Sometimes these people do what they do, and sometimes these people will turn around and open their mouth and say something while I'm trying to make an argument to Judge Rooney, and it's like, Judge, can we have a brief second call? Because you have to reel your client in and be like, hey, everything you're opening your mouth about, yeah, I get it, you're mad, you're angry. You're digging yourself in a hole. You got to shut your mouth. Let me talk for you. It's hard, right? The interesting dynamic that I bring to the table, I think, is every client that I speak to, I let them know, listen, yeah, I might be a white guy, but believe me, I'm in Lawrence. Right? And when I say, listen, I tell you about, you know, the bomb pastelitos from Miguelina's, the pernil con queso. And then the people start looking at me and like, how does this guy know about this? If they're not hooked on that, then I start telling them about me going to Pollo Sabao. And they're like, wow, this guy really is from Lawrence. He really does know what's going on. So, you know, whichever path you end up taking, just remember, I didn't go the path that Tivo went, Amelia went, Judge Rooney went, Jennifer went. I didn't go to a fancy school. But someone told me I couldn't do it. That was enough for me. It lit the fire. And it's literally, it's put me in places that I would never have imagined I would have been back then, okay? You know, I could say, by all means, was I no angel? Because let me tell you, if social media was around and all the cameras that were around back in the day when I was a kid, as the class clown guy, you guys could probably imagine some of the crazy stuff that I did. I probably wouldn't be here today, right? But at the end of the day, you make choices. You might not make the best choices at times, but you can always rebound, all right? I didn't become a lawyer until I was 40 years old. So, it's a late career change path, but it's one that it's really remarkable, it's really amazing, and especially when there are those instances where you get those clients that they're innocent, and you can help them, and you get that not guilty, it's an absolute amazing feeling being able to do that. So, that's it, everyone.
How do you feel in America that our punitive system, the people that we put away, have a high chance of not getting better and actually have a higher chance of getting worse as a person and as, like you said, a criminal.
I know as far as what you said, I know Massachusetts in particular, we're going more toward not trying to put as many people away by using electronic devices like GPS systems and stuff like that to try to deter people from going into jail, actually from keeping them from going into jail. And we're really focused as far as the trial court on recidivism. We don't want people to keep coming back. So we have programs that will help them to better themselves. But getting back to your point, I do agree that incarceration is not always the answer. But we as a trial court, we're trying to do our best to lower the recidivism by using different techniques as far as supervision goes.
So I will tell you, as a judge, the last thing I want to do is put someone in jail. So when I'm looking at someone in front of me, I sort of have a menu of options, and that is always my last choice. I will try to figure out anything I can possibly do to correct their behavior before I send them to jail, which is perhaps a surprise to Attorney Selak, because I think I might be known a little bit as a little bit of a tough judge. But this is what I have to balance is what the person has done and who that person may have hurt, and whether or not there has to be some sort of punishment. So I don't have tolerance for guns. So many people get hurt with guns. So if you're in front of me on a gun charge, you're probably going to go to jail. But on the other hand, if there's other things that we can do, so right now we obviously have had for quite some time a significant opioid problem. We have a drug court in Lawrence District Court where we do everything we possibly can to get people services. We send them to residential programs. It's usually a 2-year program. But it works because we don't want to put people behind bars. We have a mental health court that we just started because we recognize, especially since the pandemic, so many people are struggling with mental health issues. So we have a specialty court that's designed to focus on those issues to help people, help them get into services in the community. We have a veterans court, so people who have served, we have special services that can be addressed that way. One of my most favorite things that I do is called the Changing Lives Through Literature program. And that program is for people who are on probation. And so I go to class every week with a professor from the community college. And there are people who are on probation. We read books. Sometimes it's one book a semester, sometimes it's many books. We talk about the book. I do nothing. I'm a student. I do the assignments, I do the reading, I do the writing. And then when people graduate, to graduate, all they have to do is come, do the assignments, participate, and they have to get a library card at the end of the program. And then they get a reduction in their probation term or in the monies that they owe. So I think pretty much everyone here would agree it's the last place we want to send people, but sometimes there's no other alternative. Like if I've told you 20 times that this is what you have to do and you're still not doing it, even the probation officers are probably going to come to me at some point and say, you need to go. But it's not, I will tell you, the hardest thing I do is making that decision and sending someone and taking away someone's liberty. It's the hardest thing I do. And when days go and I don't have to do it, those are my better days. Any day that I send someone to jail is a hard day.
And I gotta say, from the defendant's side, I'm listening to the story that these people say, and I have to analyze the facts. And you know, at the end of the day, people make bad choices. Some people can step right up and say, hey, I did this. And other people are going to give you the song and dance and tell you, oh my God, it was the unicorn. And it was the unicorn did this. And then he texted this person and said, oh my God, did you hear what they said to Titi? And it's a story. My job's to analyze facts. And I have such an abrupt, no-nonsense approach with my clients. I don't BS them at all, okay? And I also tell them, this is what you did, or when you don't do what you're supposed to do, and you're looking at the jail time that's over your head, You got a year and a half of jail that's over your head. If you don't do these things, you're going to go to jail. And everyone's on board with doing everything that they want. And they want to accept it, but they don't want to do the things. And I look at those people right in the face and say, you have to accept responsibility for what you've done. And there's a lot of that. You think it's a common sense thing that it occurs. It doesn't, right? How many of you kids that are in here right now know people that they accept responsibility for everything that they do? Not a single hand went up in this room, okay? So a lot of it is the people have to accept responsibility for what they're doing. If you're not doing the stuff that you're supposed to, you have an opportunity by a judge to do certain things, and they work out this deal and say, we're gonna keep you out of jail if you do X, Y, Z, but you don't do anything. That's not the problem of the system. It's the problem of the individual. That's all.
I just want to say one quick thing is, as an individual, you always need to remember that when something is brought to you, or someone tells you or shows you, or someone tells you that you're getting this, or that, you have to take a step back and ask yourself, did I make the best decision possible? And sometimes making that decision is being educated on that decision. See, you guys here are already in an incredible class that's teaching you about law, all right? Laws are in place so that we can follow in society, so that society can move forward. They're not there to hold you back. It's a mechanism, it's a guide. And if you're not well informed and you make a decision and you don't realize that it's a criminal decision, you don't realize that the impact that could have on you, your family, well then we have to take a step back and say, what can I do to have a better understanding? And then if you make that decision, you made an informed decision. Now you lie with it. But I've had plenty of people on probation who have made decisions that didn't even realize that what they did was criminal. Those are the ones that I look at and I was like, ugh, because they made an uninformed decision. So the best thing you can do is inform yourself. Like you said, and I apologize, I don't remember your name, but like you said, if you can ask yourself how this will impact me and my family, 99% of the time you're going to make the right decision. But what happens is that as young adults, or as any adult, we don't ask ourselves those questions. I try to do that every single day. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight.
Why did he choose exactly criminal law?
When I was here at Lawrence High, I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor. I knew I wanted to do criminal law. I guess the way I always saw this side of it is one of my main interests is helping the victim of a case. And I sort of saw that as sort of one of the main reasons I wanted to do criminal law and prosecution. In law school, you cover the main 15 topics, and I did an internship and I did some family and probate law and helped someone with divorce and child custody. And I realized, oh no, I did not want to spend my days fighting over who gets the car in a divorce, or arguing over exactly how many hours of visitation someone gets with their kids. You sort of realize when you get into every area what the little things about it, you're just like, oh, I can't do this every day. Some of the things seem minor. And I had classmates that when I told them, I was like, oh, I just came back from my internship, I got to do a motion in front of a judge, I've been in the courthouse all day, it's been great. And they say, oh, I was writing legal briefs all day, and that was great. And then if we had switched, we each would have wanted to bang our heads against the wall, because it's just sort of, the criminal law just drew my attention. It felt more exciting to me, felt more interesting. Not every case you're trying to send someone to jail. Some of them are minor things. Like every day we have people who got the citation and the summons to come into court because you're driving without a license. No one's going to jail for that. It shouldn't. And normally that's like the small stuff, and sometimes you see something where it's like, yeah, assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, a knife, and you're like, okay, let's break down that case. What happened to the victim? What's the victim's story? What does the defendant say? What does the defendant say to the police? And that always felt so much more interesting to me than trying to work in an office, getting, billing for my time, and trying to be like, oh, can I get this person this in a divorce? Or can I write this in the contract? So it's just really preference. And for me, it was just the courthouse was the biggest draw.
I think part of it is like what you like to do, like how you want to spend your day. Like it does not surprise me at all. I didn't know that Attorney Slack had a sales background, but it doesn't surprise me. And not because he's a salesman in the courtroom, but the fact is I decided to do criminal law because I wanted to be in a courtroom and I wanted to be up on my feet and doing something different every day. I didn't want to be behind a desk writing, and criminal law honestly is you're going to try the most cases, you're going to be a litigator. So if you think you want to go to law school and you think, I like to be busy, I like to do different things, I like to think on my feet, be in the courtroom, then that might be an avenue for you. If you're going to law school and think, I really love doing research and I love writing papers, then it's a totally different experience. So one of the things you can do is do a lot of different internships to kind of figure it out. And I'm just going to throw this out there because once upon a time, I had an internship with the Lawrence High School. And what we did is we had kids come to the courthouse and the teachers picked them. And we had you come, and it was in the afternoon, and we had you shadow. You shadowed a judge for a couple of weeks. Then you shadowed one of the probation officers for a few weeks. You shadowed a prosecutor for 2 weeks. And you shadowed a defense attorney for 2 weeks. And then you'd write a little paper at the end about your experience. And it kind of gave kids an opportunity to see, this is what a probation officer does every day. This is what a defense attorney does every day. And we did that for a couple of years and it kind of fell off. And I know the pandemic makes things tough, but I would love to do that again, to give you guys a chance to kind of see. Because I think unless you're out there seeing and practicing, it's really hard to know what you want to do. So if you think you want to go to law school, you'll be exposed to all different kinds of things, and you can kind of test the waters. But what I would strongly tell you is what you love to do, like if you love to talk to people, then you probably want to be a litigator. If you're more of a quiet person, then find what you love to do and make it your job. And I love being busy and challenged and things coming left and right. That's why I like what I do every day, and that's why I was a prosecutor. I also did probate and family law for 18 months. It was awful.
One of the things I did forget to add, I love to argue. Unfortunately, my wife can attest to this. I was on the mock trial team when I was at the Leonard School in 8th grade. I was also on the mock trial team at Lawrence High School. If this is something that you guys have this interest in, follow up on it.